We all struggle with feeling like there's not enough time in the day to be productive personally or professionally. We all struggle to make our time matter. It's time to take control. It's time to start investing in the corporation of you. At Athena, they've helped over 700 ambitious professionals achieve more by connecting them with best-in-class, globally remote executive assistants. Athena executive assistants go beyond basic administration tasks. They help you make time matter through the art of delegation. They believe delegation is the superpower of all highly successful people, and your personal EA will help you get there. Your EA is a one-on-one long-term partner to help you achieve your personal and professional goals. Take back your time. Join the waitlist at athenago.com. That's athenago.com.
I mean, no one plans to get sick, and yet, here we are. My name is Matthew Zachary. A quarter century ago, I was given 6 months to live with a diagnosis of terminal brain cancer. For more than 15 years, I've been ranting and raving on the air about stupid cancer and now stupid healthcare, and I'm just getting warmed up. So let's all go make healthcare suck less together, because you know what? We're all out of patience. Hey, that's the name of the show. Hey guys, I have more of a mellow show for you today. This is a bonus episode because my friend Marty, who happened to just be in New York City, stopped by my office and we just turned on the mics and had a very therapeutic conversation. So Marty Keiser, who's been on the show twice in 2020 and 2021, early adopter, I guess. He's the founder and CEO of IV Bioholdings. He's the founder and chairman of Liquid Lung, Hepgene, Mamagen. He's a serial entrepreneur, which I think we learned is just an entrepreneur. But irrespective of all those incredible credentials, he's a human. He's a friend. He's a guy. He's a dad. Yes, we kind of start half the show with E.T. and 80s nostalgia, but I think you're used to that happening on the show when I talk to people. But we really dig deep into some of the emotions and the challenges and the life hacks of what are we trying to do in this world? How do we make a difference? What frustrates us? And how do we reconcile all these things at 3 a.m. when we get home? We want to hug our kids. Yogi Bera said, if life were easy, we'd all do it. I think that kind of sums up this show. I said I'd keep it simple. That maybe wasn't so simple, but I hope you enjoy my chat, my therapeutic chat with my friend Marty Keiser. Enjoy. All right, guys, listeners, this is kind of a special little therapy bonus episode. Marty Keiser, who was on the show, God, like 2 years ago? Like mid-pandemic? I have no idea.
No.
Early 21?
Early 21.
That's still like mid-pandemic.
February 21.
Post-vaccination, mid-pandemic.
February 21, I think, was the first show I did. And then Liz and I came in studio, and I think we were the first people to come back in studio. And I think
true.
That was about a year ago.
That was
May.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking
Right
of
before,
Pfizer
yeah.
vaccines.
Yeah. That allowed us to do that.
Yeah, so Marty just happened to be in the city, and I just happened to be in the office, and we're just doing an ad hoc, kind of like a Gen X dad kids therapy show.
Yeah.
Lots to talk about, no agenda, and I hope you enjoy whatever the hell we're going to talk about for the next 30 minutes.
This is going to be good.
And we were talking before the show about our kids, and this is not like the 80s were better and different. This is really like attention spans.
Yeah.
And I'll share with you that I had my kids watch E.T. It's the 40th anniversary.
I almost had them watch that movie like last Saturday, and by the time we got to a point where everybody was like finally sitting and ready to go, we all fell asleep, so we didn't watch it. But I literally almost introduced him to E.T. I think I've had him watch every sort of 80s and 90s movie from my childhood except E.T., so that's on the list.
Does the older one prefer the 80s stuff, or?
They both like it, but yeah, the older one for sure. I mean, the older one loves Indiana Jones, and she loves Star Wars, and she loves the Goonies. She loves all those.
I'm really impressed, though, because by today's standards, they're not very fast-paced.
Yeah, they're not.
I mean, E.T. kind of opens really slow.
Yeah.
Right? Just the Reese's Pieces, and the guy with the keys in the forest and everything, But my daughter lasted the whole movie. My son's like, this is boring, and by the time he said penis breath, he was out. But she lasted the whole movie, and she's like, "Daddy, why are you crying?" Yeah. I'm 48, just tearing up watching E.T. 40 years later. It's still the best movie ever.
I mean, it's one of those, and it's one of those the scores. Da 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 da. I mean, it'll literally
John
bring
Williams.
you to tears.
One can pick the Mount Rushmore of John Williams scores. There's Jaws, there's Indiana Jones, there's Schindler's List, Jurassic Park, E.T. E.T.'s top.
Yeah.
I don't think there was a single better score than E.T.
I don't know if I could rank John Williams. I mean, they're all amazing.
He has yet to fail.
And it is funny that all those movies that I mentioned that are my daughter's favorite are all John Williams scores. So it is, maybe it's all about the tune.
Seriously, it really is.
I binged.
You just know them. Pick any other film score guy and the theme. You don't have one.
Now, Hans Zimmer is the only close second, but his stuff is very different. I mean, John Williams has
really
a very
thematic,
specific.
Though. Think of a theme to a movie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, there's no doubt.
So I'm glad my daughter at least experienced E.T. I don't know when. Maybe my son, when he gets to college one day, I should probably watch these old nostalgic classic films on Turner Classic Movies.
Yeah, maybe when he sees a box of Reese's Pieces, it'll trigger some kind of happy moment for him.
You know the Reese's Pieces story about that movie, right? Mm-mm. They went to M&M's, and M&M's said, "Go fuck yourself." So then they went to Reese's, and Reese's basically invented Reese's Pieces for the movie.
No way.
Big win.
Huge win.
Big win.
Win for humanity.
It's totally big win.
Hey, had it not been for that, I probably wouldn't own a metabolic disease company focused on non-alcoholic fatty liver disease.
I see what you did there.
See what I did there?
By the way, you rewatch a movie at our age versus being, I was maybe 10 or 8, whatever it was. There's one particular moment where the guy with the keys in the woods with the flashlights in the dark, he sees the Reese's Pieces. And he eats one.
No way.
He eats.
Picked up
what
on
the
that?
hell's wrong with you? Why are you eating
right
Reese's
off the
Pieces?
ground?
I mean, first of all, E.T. touched them. Elliot touched them. They're lying in the woods for like a night, and he just eats a Reese's Pieces.
Oh, my God.
That would not happen today.
Oh, I got to see that again.
It's so good.
Definitely.
Again, I also found out that, if on the Halloween night that they went out in costume, they put the ghost sheet over him, and they see a Yoda.
Yeah.
That was intentional.
Was or wasn't?
Was. Lucas and Spielberg are best friends for 50 years now.
It was an Easter egg.
It was totally. And then they paid it off in one of the prequels because in the Senate where Yoda's talking, there's like an ET consulate in the Senate.
Oh my God. I know exactly what. I think that was episode 2.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
they were just
so
in the Senate, and there's an ET consulate there paying off something from 1982.
Wow, that's so cool.
ET saw Yoda and I know you guys.
Oh, that is awesome, man. That's very cool.
Yeah, so.
Well, you talked about attention span and how the kids kind of had a different experience with that. But I think attention span is one thing that it's a whole topic that could be explored right now because on one hand, we live in this fast-paced society where the kids are just inundated with things. They're always on to the next thing. It's quick. It's fast. Everything's in little short TikTok versions of life, right? But a really good friend of mine, Todd Hartley, he's the CEO of Wirebuzz, big-time content marketing guru and sales guru. And he shined a spotlight on what he calls binge-worthy content. Because in this world where everybody's attention span is so short, it is funny how a season will drop on Netflix, and if the content is good enough, you'll binge it. You'll spend hours and hours and hours totally
guilty as
sucked into
charged.
it. Totally guilty. Everybody is. So I don't know that it's an attention span issue. I think it's more evolving the content and just making things worth people's time, which is so limited and kind of bite-sized now more than ever.
So it's kind of like intellectual slothiness on demand.
Yeah.
On our demand.
Yeah,
not when it's available.
Exactly.
I'm just going to spend the next 6 days watching every episode of Sex and the City, and just like that. I heard Big died. We should watch this. Thank you, Peloton. Not a sponsor.
Oh my God, that's great.
So we can therapize a lot. Everyone listening knows that OffScrip Health is a relatively new company, and we had you in the show. And if they didn't listen to your episode, we'll put a link in the description because they have to listen to the episode. But I met you, actually you stalked me, I believe, when, I don't know how or where that chemistry happened, and we became like best friends in an hour, perhaps.
Fast. Yeah.
But you really helped me understand this new world of the private sector. I'm a nonprofit guy. I had an employer at Omnicom for years. I did some independent stuff, but it was just kind of me. And this whole world like we're lurching into like, startup therapy, I guess.
Oh yeah, here we go.
And that mental health nonsense and crapness. And you've been doing this a long time. And what is it addictive? What happens when you decide I'm going to just keep making and selling and acquiring companies?
It's very addictive. It's a roller coaster ride. It's an experience where on any given day, it could be the bluest, clearest sky, greatest day ever. And the very next day, it's scorched fucking earth.
Right.
And there's something exhilarating about that. There's something addicting to that. You hear the term serial entrepreneur, and to me, that's just an entrepreneur. Any entrepreneur who does it once will always do it over and over and over. You can't not do it. So yeah, I would say it's a totally addictive experience. And so much so that in the world that we live right now, the access to data, the access to technology, the access to capital, there's just no shortage of problems that can be solved. And, that just creates this rich universe of opportunity for people that have that burning desire and that sort of inner desire to create massive change, not incremental change, not a small business, but what startup truly is about is completely disrupting and displacing and complementing and enhancing things in very radical ways. And that's just if you've got that burning desire, if you're wired that way, there's no better time to be doing it.
But it really is another version of survival of the fittest. You could have the best idea imaginable and fail at funding and fundraising.
Right.
You could have the crappiest project ever and make a shiny object deck and get $20 million.
Right.
How do you over under that?
Yeah, it's hard.
Very frustrating.
It is.
To see these companies that are bragging about, we have 40 of this and $30 million Series A. Right. For 30?
Right.
Really, for 30? I got 30 million. What's wrong with you?
That part's hard to handicap. I have to say I've been in this long enough now where I've seen a lot of it, and there's sort of a way things have been done, and people, they naturally kind of go to places where they think, oh, well, that's just the way it's been done, and you just keep doing it over and over. And one of the things that I found, every VC that you meet, they all have their investment selection criteria, and they're all exactly the same. Everybody will tell you the same thing. We invest in great teams. We invest in great people. And
it's a nice highway billboard.
It is, right? And it's true. Obviously, no company is going to be successful without a great team and great people.
We invest in assholes.
Right? So, but I never, that part seems, there's a lot more to that. And I think that's code for we're part of a certain circle from a certain group or a certain, academic institution or university, and we never play outside of that group or that circle or that sort of, little mafia, right? And I find that all the time. And I mean, literally, that's how Theranos became about. I mean, she took advantage. Not a sponsor. Not existent.
Yes.
But she took advantage of that world. She took advantage of the fact that she was sort of the token Stanford dropout, the next Bill Gates. She dressed the part. She talked the part. She was able to secure big name, notable people into a scientific advisory board for her. And then everybody looked at that and said, oh, well, if they're involved, then it must be great. And they just fell in line. I mean, they were a $9 billion company by the time the bottom fell out of that. And she just played that game. I think it's tricky. I mean, that's a black swan outlier. Totally is. There's no doubt about that. But it does make you question, why aren't we focusing more on the data? Why aren't we focused more on a technology or the science or whatever it is first, and then evaluate whether you think there's a good, competent, capable team? That, to me, I think is something I'd like to see more of.
I'm still in like this venom state where I'm trying to pull off the nonprofit version of me from the past and reconcile that money is more important than purpose. I hate that that's the way it is. It bothers me that we are I'm a very purpose-driven human being. What you're doing, just to let the listeners know, I'm going to paraphrase, but like you have this company that makes a biopsy that can actually help you not get sick. Like, what a great idea. Why isn't that a thing that just exists? And take the business out of it, that's real purpose.
Right.
It can actually help real people. But unless this makes a ton of money and gives me a 200% return on what I give you, I don't care about it. How do you reconcile that? How do you like at 3 a.m, you just want to like punch a kitten?
I would not ever harm animals. I just put that on the record.
Okay.
But, I don't know. I think about it a little bit differently. I think I'm wired more as a stakeholder capitalist at heart. So, again, I mentioned data, technology, capital. There's enough of those things out there. There's enough data. There's enough computational power to drive down costs, to make things scalable. And I just, a tagline, whether it's on our website or social media or a deck that I created, but it's profit and purpose no longer have to be mutually exclusive, especially when it comes to our health. And I feel that very strongly about that. And so I don't look at the business side of it as an evil piece of it. I look at it as a way to unlock all the purpose. It's just it's a tool, right? It's a mechanism for doing that. And I think if we organize those pieces the right way, where we strip out a lot of the traditional time and the cost and the risk, then we can accelerate the creation of better solutions, better products that are scalable. And you can create a hell of a lot of money doing it because you're now doing things at scale. And so I think that there's no reason for one or the other that, in the world that we live in right now.
I mean, my head goes to some pop culture reference, like in the movie Cliffhanger. At the start, he loses his daughter, but at the end, he saves the woman. But they're dangling by a thread, like she's right there.
Yeah.
Right. That's where my head's at. We're right there. Why can't we just get that extra millimeter to grab it?
Right. A lot of that comes down to just perseverance, building the right team and coalitions of the right partners that can push the idea across that threshold. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. You can only do it. Your personal drive and personal passion and personal appreciation for the purpose will only go so far. You have to build the coalition of team members and partners. And that's, look, I think that's a big part of why we've become such fast friends, because we're both very purpose driven. We both realize that there's a lot of other components about the business that need to be done to unlock that purpose. And here we are trying to help each other do that.
All right, quick break, and we'll be right back.
Has your chronic illness made it difficult to continue working in the traditional way? Want to learn how to find and create flexible remote work that both accommodates your chronic illness and generates an income? Join the Patients Getting Paid membership, a community of chronicpreneurs where people just like you find workshops and trainings, weekly updated condition-specific gigs, twice monthly coaching calls, co-workings, accountability, and the kindest community to support you on your path to make money while working from anywhere and taking good care of yourself. Learn more or join us at patientsgettingpaid.com.
So I started watching Severance on Apple TV.
I don't think I've seen it.
It's really bizarre, but it's kind of it's idiopathically, psychologically ridiculous. Takes place in like this hybrid 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s mixed bag of culture. But the premise is that you get a chip implanted in your head when you agree to work for this particular weird company that we will, I guess, find out more about as the season progresses. And what the chip does is it turns off your memory when you enter the building. So when you work, you don't remember anything, because when you leave the building, you get to live your life. So the burden
The ultimate NDA.
Yeah, literally, that's exactly what it is.
It's the world's greatest NDA.
But the sell and the pitch to people is like, why ever carry the burden and baggage of your job into your real life? Live your real life as authentically as possible. And because like skullduggery ensues and some weird crap happens, but just the idea, not that I would ever want to have the ultimate NDA, I suppose, just being able to turn off the frustration when you get home. I had a nurse on the show recently. She had cancer as a nurse. So when the oncology nurse gets cancer, and I said, before you got sick, you're dealing with kids with cancer every day. How do you turn that off? Can you turn that off? And, not apples to apples per se, but every day it's a no, it's a frustration. It's how do you not get it? And then you get home and you just want to be yourself with your kids.
Right.
Do you face that?
Yeah, well, we all face that in entrepreneur land. It's gotten harder, though, because there's no commute anymore, right?
Right. Oh, wow, yeah.
The commute was like a big part of the unwinding and the re-entry mode. So, you shut your laptop in your master bedroom after a Zoom meeting because you're hiding from, the dog barking and the Amazon guy ringing your doorbell 5 times a day. And you walk downstairs and you're just in it, you're in your family and you're in all of the things that actually matter.
And your kids see the furrowed brow and they're like, what's wrong, Daddy?
And just, I've had those moments where I could feel the distance in my own eyes, and I hate that feeling. It happens. It's inevitable. And I think just constantly trying to find things that allow you to still remain creative, but aren't completely related to the business. And I think that whether that's finding peace in nature, in a hike. We live in Southern California. I love to go to the ocean. I don't go in the cold, dark, shark-infested ocean, but I do take sort of inspiration and feel a sense of what's the way to let me put this differently. When I put myself into big, large spaces, open ocean, 180-degree views as far as the eye could see with nothing out there, the frustration of the little problems that are so close to home feel a lot less important because they're in the context of something so big and something so vast. And, I know I'm getting pretty deep here, but I'm introspective this way. You see the vastness of something, and I see the hope and the possibility in that vastness. And there's some people that just are not wired that way. I am wired that way. And so when I start to feel tense on those things, the business, the short-term things that are just kind of keeping you up at night, driving you crazy, I purposely put myself in those positions to try to get that reset and put it into context and to kind of inject that sense of hope and that possibility again. During the pandemic, that was really hard because you couldn't go anywhere. And so,
right.
But now we're starting to, get back to that point where the more you can put yourself in that, I think it helps. It helps smooth some of that out.
I mean, you could also go stir crazy realizing that we are just meat on a rock floating in space infinitely forever. Like, what does that even mean? That makes no sense. I don't get it. Don't go too Neil deGrasse Tyson on yourself staring at the stars.
Yeah.
But at the same time, then you go watch Multiverse of Madness or something like that. And you're like, what is really going on?
That's sort of the interesting dichotomy of it. So on one hand, we're pieces of meat floating around on a rock in the middle of the universe. On the other hand, every action that we take, we actually see a reaction, right? So every action, every thought, every idea.
Are you going all thermodynamics on me?
I think I am.
Okay.
So you see the impact that you're actually having in somebody's life or on a business or, in your community, and you're not so insignificant. So there's on one hand this vast feeling of total insignificance, and then there's great significance. It's hard to find that balance.
Have you ever just wanted to have a day job?
When I was in finance and I didn't feel a whole lot of purpose in the work that I was doing in finance, making a lot of money, pretty good at it. There were a lot of times where I'd be driving my beautiful car past some road workers doing construction, and I just look at the simplicity of wearing a hard hat and pushing a button on a jackhammer. And I would actually feel a little jealous. And I'm like, here I am with nothing to complain about, but I wish I sort of had that simplicity in my life. That was the only time I felt that way. The work I do today is so much more purposeful and it's so much more intentional that I don't feel that way anymore. But I have felt that way. It was weird. I haven't shared that with anybody because it seemed kind of crazy and spoiled and selfish.
Yeah, I mean, but to channel Mike Judge in Office Space, that's kind of what they did when they burned the building down. They all went to work in construction.
There's something about working with your hands and going home, washing your hands, and the job's over. Yeah. So that's the point. There's sort of a shutoff there that people like us don't have. But if you're doing what you love, it's worth it.
Do you have a personal strategy on how to deal with rejection? And I mean rejection in the emotional sense that you have to separate out. And I this is just me for my whole life, rejection. I'm a musician. I want applause on the stage. How do you apply that to venture capital or raises or clients or whatever?
Right.
They're not really rejecting me as a person. They're rejecting a business opportunity. Mm-hmm. And I've always had a problem conflating that. And that's sort of been my corporate counsel therapy.
Personal strategy for dealing with it. I mean, dealing with it, accepting it as a known variable, accepting it as a constant in the equation. So if it's accepted and it's a constant, then when it happens, it's part of the equation, right? So if you aren't accepting of that fact, then it's going to hurt every single time. That's sort of, what I would say is kind of a personal strategy for that. But I mean, look, I got rejected by my wife every day to be my girlfriend. I asked her every day in the 6th grade. I sort of backed off to like every other day in 7th grade, kind of backed off, a little bit more through 8th grade. She didn't say yes to be my girlfriend until junior year of high school. So it was a 6-year period of
that is some adolescent persistence right
persistence there. And a lot of rejection, but finally worked out, and we've been together ever since, almost 20 years. So
and you look great on Instagram.
It worked.
Did you just celebrate something?
It was worth it. Yeah, 19 years.
Wow,
19 years from the day that she said yes to be my girlfriend on April 25th around 10:30 at night on the corner of the Boston Post Road and South Pine Creek Road in Fairfield, Connecticut. She said yes, in my Ford Focus. And she said yes, and we've been together literally uninterrupted 19 years since that day, so we celebrated that. And
so you have a yes-iversary, a first date anniversary, an engage anniversary, a wedding anniversary.
And I mean, look, the love at first sight was sort of the sight-iversary. Right? Yeah. And that's what started.
What grade?
6th grade.
Wow.
Yeah. My oldest is 9, so to think in like 2 years she could potentially meet the love of her life, that's a little creepy.
Yeah, my twins are in 6th grade as we speak, and that is hyper creepy.
It's really creepy. But it worked. Look, the point is it was worth it. And, there was rejection along the way, but I didn't give up because I knew, deep down that it was the right thing and it was worth it. And so those are just the strategies. Accept it as a constant. As long as it's worth it, keep freaking going, keep pushing, keep knocking, keep grinding. And I think another personal strategy would be you could figure out sort of who gets it and who doesn't really quick. And, the moment you try to get into the business of converting people, it's just going to be a long and painful road. Find the ones that get it, build a coalition of people around that, the people that get it, figure out what it is that they got, and then start kind of building that into your story.
Yeah, the I don't get it is from Big. Remember, he just says he figures out what a transformer is.
Yeah,
like what if a bug turns into a robot? And the other and Elizabeth Perkins' boyfriend goes batshit. I don't get it. I don't get it. Yeah, it bothers me when people don't get something that at least I think or my team would think.
It's so obvious.
This just makes sense. What's wrong? It's a 6-sided die. That's what it is.
Right.
Like, I don't get it. So you roll it and it has numbers on it? Tell me why that's important.
Exactly.
I mean, you're working on some stuff that is probably very easily misunderstood because it's really ahead of its time.
Yeah.
All of your portfolio companies are trying to bring shit to patients
that never existed before.
That just never existed before. And we talked about this on the show with Liz. Liz Cormier-May is the CEO of Mamagen, one of your portfolio companies. Phenomenal human being. Super shout out to Liz. But this idea of like, if there's something that could help you not die, why does it take so goddamn long to get there?
Yeah, I know. It's frustrating. We're getting there pretty quick.
I mean, all things considered, yes, you are.
All things considered, we are getting there pretty quick. Actually, our breast cancer test is very likely to be ready to deploy into clinical trials by the end of this summer. That'll be the first one going into an actual clinical utility trial, followed by lung and liver disease. So we're making great progress on it, but still it feels like it takes forever. I mean, I've now lost 2 relatives to lung cancer. We lost one very, very dear friend to breast cancer at 30 years old. And I've got some family and some friends that very clearly have some version of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. That weighs on me pretty heavy, man. I mean, where we're at today and across all of our businesses, we got, in industry standards, should have taken us about 10 years and should have cost somewhere between $100 and almost $1 billion in R&D. We got here in less than 3 years on less than $5 million in capital. It's a big win. But when you look at 2 uncles died from lung cancer, you look at one best friend died of breast cancer at 30, you look at friends developing non-alcoholic fatty liver disease with no approved therapeutic and no way to detect it, no way to easily diagnose it. I'm sitting here saying like, yeah, okay, we did, we shaved off 70% of the time and 99% of the cost, but it's still not enough. We've got to get things to a point where they're accelerating even further. so that we can get in front of some of these issues.
Right. Well, the Moore's law of this is if that's an appropriate way to look at like the human genome used to take a year and $1 billion. Now it's like in Walgreens for $10, right? So the Moore's law-ishness that you've manifested with these companies, even if that is the way of progression, and we can like the next version of this could be a year and whatever, you still need the people who are going through the shitness to be on these tests.
Yeah.
And in modern day cacophony of literacy and diversity and health equity and really important things that we didn't even think about 10, 15, 20 years ago, this idea of better problems to have.
Yeah.
My frustration still stems on how the hell do people know shit exists?
Mm-hmm. Well, a platform like what you've built is a big part of that. I mean, it's I think it's the number one reason we became friends so quickly, because I view it the exact same way. There are so much innovation happening, but it's happening within the closed doors of the ivory towers within an academic institution where these researchers are phenomenal at what they do and they're great at patting each other on the back, but walk into Starbucks and nobody's ever heard of half of these things. And it's like, okay, we've got to find a way to bridge that divide, bridge the innovation with the awareness. And that's a big part of what we're focused on doing. It's a big part of why Liz and I spend a lot of time talking to, breast cancer advocacy groups and survivor groups and, all different types of networks of real people that have real risk of real disease. And we try to educate them on real future solutions so that by the time they're at we're into the market, we've got a community that understands and is ready to go. We are doing that in a pretty unique way. Liz may not want me to share this because she'll probably want to debut it in a bigger way, but I'm going to do it here.
This is going to air in 2027, so it's okay.
Perfect. So she has been quietly building something behind the scenes at Mamagen called Mamagen Marketplace. And think of this as like Goop for healthcare. So
a better Goop, I hope.
A better Goop. A
less
raunchy Goop.
Vaginal fans and all these weird things.
A lot less raunchy.
Not sponsored by Goop.
But a community. And so it's a marketplace where initially we'll just be selling merch, right? It'll be branded logo gear with our hashtags, our logo, our hashtags, our slogans, things that, are comfy and cool and sort of trendy and fun to wear.
Yes, they're fake. My real ones tried to kill me. A really, really... That shirt sold really well in the 2000s. I don't know how well it aged, but that was the shirt in the 2000s.
Oh my God, we should actually bring that back and throw it on the marketplace.
I can't imagine there being any IP with it.
I think we can do it. I think it's a great idea. Well, the flagship sort of product on the marketplace will be what we call the pink robe killer. And that was inspired because a lot of breast cancer survivors that we talked to complained about when they get their mammogram, they're given this pink, shitty hospital gown that is uncomfortable. It's
it's one-ply toilet paper first and foremost.
Oh yeah, without question, it's just pink one-ply.
Yeah,
and it bugs them, and they're like, it's just awkward. They think it's like cute because it's pink, but I'm really I'm terrified to get my mammogram. I don't want to be there. It's uncomfortable. And so we came up with the idea of a pink robe killer, which is a comfy plush, zip-up hoodie. A bright, shocking pink, so a more bold kind of stance.
That you can wear to your mammogram?
That you can wear to your mammogram.
Wow.
And so I could envision this as sort of almost like a partial gag gift for a woman who's turning 40 where you're now eligible for your mammogram. Mm-hmm. So, hey, it's sort of a cute, fun, comfy thing. It's kind of a joke at the same time because, you're 40 now, it's time to get your mammogram, but it's actually driving awareness to screening. And so a big part of us is just trying to drive awareness to that. Women buy that product. A certain percentage of the proceeds of the product sold through the Mamagen Marketplace will fund our research and development, which actually accelerates the time for an actual viable product that people want and can use. And the other percentage of the proceeds we're actually going to dedicate towards building and funding our community-based efforts. So one survivor told us that when she got breast cancer, everybody gave her gift cards. They all brought food. They all brought things to make her, sort of take the sting out of that diagnosis out. And she complained about it. And she said, look, it was really thoughtful. It was really nice. But the reality was I really needed that food and those gift cards on my chemo days because on my chemo days, I was a shell of a human being.
Yeah.
And I couldn't cook for my kids. And so, it would have been great if somebody brought soup to my house on my chemo days. So Liz and I have been just keeping a running log of these things that we've heard from real people dealing with this. And we've got, every intention of being able to fund as much of that, whether it's funding the soup and trying to create these pop-up communities of women that can help each other throughout the entire journey of, previvorship to survivorship to thrivership, and be able to support that across the way.
Now you're making words up.
But now I am. But that's an example of that profit and purpose intersection.
Yes.
They're not mutually exclusive. And actually, think about what we're doing there. The Mammogen marketplace will fuel the community, and the community will fuel our market adoption. And so now there's this feedback loop of this very positive and purposeful feedback loop where everybody wins. I mean, that's something that nobody's doing in healthcare. I can tell you that. They're not doing it in diagnostics. Most diagnostics companies, the last interaction you have with them is a bill, and that's it. And we're breaking the mold on a lot of that stuff. So I don't know how I got there, but I don't remember what you said.
Tangents work here on the show.
But the point is just thinking outside the box, thinking creatively. Oh, and driving awareness. I mean, and doing it. Creating a world where normal people actually know about this stuff.
I want to end with a quick story, a really inspiring story. This goes back to the influence of customers and consumers and patients in policy. You mentioned 40 years old for mammograms. So it didn't used to be that way. If the listeners are not aware, mammograms were 50. And that was because the tech didn't exist to find anything with denser breast tissue, which is what you have when you're younger. And in 2012, as part of Obamacare, ACA was passed, and there was a sub-legislative thing shoved in there called the Early Act that Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the former head of the DNC, when she got breast cancer, she realized, I got to do something. I'm not 50. So among many things, the bill guaranteed covered reconstruction benefits for the rest of your life if you have mastectomies and whatnot. But more importantly, it lowered the screening to 40 and required the diagnostics companies to change their tech to detect denser breast tissue, not like 30-year-old breast tissue, but 40-year-old breast tissue. So here's the story. I have a dear friend of mine who I've known a long time now. She's a award-winning health journalist for many, many years. Had a mammogram on her 40th birthday, and they found something. And she's fine now. But if she had to wait till 50, she'd be dead.
Yeah.
So inasmuch as it is so critical to build these communities, channeling these communities for activations in federal protections is so important to all of us, because that's the one thing that eliminates so many bullshit variables of making sure people get these tests, people die less, people suffer less, and everybody wins.
Yep. Totally agree. But understanding the limitations, right? There's, to your point, women under 40 have very dense breast tissue. And because of that sort of demographic of women, the mammogram, even digital mammography, is only about 47% sensitive.
Right.
So unlocking that and unlocking screening and lowering eligibility even further just poses a massive risk, not just in false negatives, sending people away that, actually have it, and, you tell them that they don't and they do, but also the risk of false positives and being pushed through a system of completely unnecessary biopsies and expensive procedures. So we need to find that balance. We're finding that balance by intentionally designing non-invasive tests that are highly accurate but also affordable and scalable, that could say, hey, you know what? You're not technically eligible for mammogram yet, but your blood work or your saliva work came back positive, and so you probably should go in for the full imaging workup, mammogram, ultrasound, MRI, and get you in there much earlier. And that's how we're approaching it. And I think once we establish some baseline data that suggests that we've ruled more of the right people in and we've ruled more of the wrong people out, then I think that unlocks a lot more of sort of the government funding and the eligibility requirements, and things will change. We'll push the limits of that.
We're going to push this show as a bonus episode because just this week, listeners, so this will be like next week, but last week, based on whatever today is, we did a show with Exact Sciences and profiled Cologuard. Because that's a great way to know if you're at risk of something before you get it, when you may not be eligible for a colonoscopy. The same model of, again, we're therapizing as serial entrepreneurs that are just entrepreneurs, right? If you can solve a problem that no one else is trying to solve, we really, really want to do it. And just getting there, even if it took you like a tenth the time as it would have taken 10 years ago, just getting to that last moment where you see the person who benefits, like my friend who had her mammogram at 40. That's why we do this.
Yeah.
And that's the driving force. And it's inversely proportional to the frustrations of getting there.
Yep, totally. It is. It's an inspiring way to end.
Yeah. Are we done?
No, we don't have to be done, but that ties it together pretty well.
No, it really does. I mean, we ran over for all the right reasons, and I'm just thrilled to see you in person, my friend.
Too, man.
And again, like I love having like no real agendas, and if people are still listening at this point to the episode, thank you for sticking around. But no, he's just like two dads chiming on crazy shit. How'd we get here? What are we doing here? You know, paying homage to people we've lost, people we loved. And like I said, just the best kind of therapy is exactly this.
And look, stay hopeful, stay positive, stay perseverant, and remind yourself, because I remind myself this a lot. I have to remind myself actually more than I would like to, but I do. And that is that I am a husband and a father who happens to be an entrepreneur, not an entrepreneur who happens to be a father and a husband. So
I got to change my LinkedIn profile.
Got to change it. And you got to make sure you're constantly putting that in check, because really at the end of the day, if you're winning at work but you're losing at home, nobody's really winning. So
Marty Keiser, thanks for coming back.
Good seeing you, man.
All right, take care.
You too.
That's all for now. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe, leave a review on Apple Podcasts, follow us on social, and tell all your friends to listen. Tell us what you'd like Matthew to cover in his next episode by leaving a message for us at 855-AUDIO-66, and we might just use it in a future show. Out of Patients is a product of OffScrip Health. We are a healthcare engagement company built for patients and caregivers by patients and caregivers. Our executive producers are Matthew Zachary and Andrew McDowell. Our senior producer is Betsy Shepard. Our host is Matthew Zachary. It is recorded, mixed, and edited by Betsy Shepard. For advertising and media inquiries, email media@offscript.com. That's media@offscript.com. For more information, visit offscript.com.